Hi teachers, I am back again for Visible Learning for Literacy Part 2. So let's jump right in. We're going to talk about some surface learning strategies today. So your learning target is we're going to learn effective strategies that support surface learning. I will know I'm successful when I can understand and apply these strategies in the classroom. So hopefully you can take some things back and immediately apply those in your classroom. A little bit of review. So the three phases of learning are surface, deep, and transfer learning. Think of the two main ones as surface and deep learning. And then transfer is how do you transfer from surface to deep learning, or how do you transfer from deep learning to constructing thinking. So surface learning is, think of this as like ideas that students have. Deep learning is thinking, really analyzing and thinking about these ideas. And then transfer is constructing. So a little spoiler alert, transfer is going to be like a PBL. And we'll talk a little bit about PBLs in that transfer learning training. So the idea is balance, and the idea is knowing where in each of your students' learning they are. So you may have a group of students that is still in the surface learning phase for a topic. You may have a group of students that has already moved on to the deep learning phase. So how do we choose a strategy? We follow the science, we follow the research. One of the ways we can do this is by looking at the effect size of a strategy. And you've heard me talk a lot about effect sizes, so we'll do a little bit of review on effect sizes. Again, also consider what phase of learning the student is in. This can be assessed with a pre-assessment, so figuring out, are they in that surface learning? Are they just now beginning to learn about the topic? Or do they have a more advanced understanding where they can do some maybe deep or transfer learning? So here is a graphic that kind of explains the idea behind the numbers that we're looking for with effect sizes. So the zone of desired effect is 0.4 and above. So when we're looking at effect sizes, we're looking at strategies that have that effect size. And then additionally, when we're looking at maybe things that we've practiced in the classroom or things that we do on a daily basis that may have a negative impact on our classroom. For instance, one that stuck out to me was classroom management. A lack of classroom management is going to have a negative effect on your classroom, according to the research. So effect size is the magnitude or size of a given effect or the statistical significance. So based on all of the research that Hattie and others have done, what is the statistical significance of that strategy? So here are the parts of surface learning: phonics instruction and direct instruction. With OpenCourt and our math instruction, direct instruction, we have a strong foundation there. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time with our phonics instruction and direct instruction. Vocabulary instruction is another part of surface learning. Reading comprehension instruction, rehearsal and memorization, and collaborative learning with peers. So the ones that I'm going to focus on are the last four. And just going back a little bit, so phonics instruction has a 0.54 effect size, and vocabulary instruction, a vocabulary program, has a 0.67 effect size. I'm going to teach you some vocabulary strategies, but the research has been done on an actual vocabulary program, but these are the ones that have been highlighted in the book. So for vocabulary instruction, mnemonics have a 0.45 effect size, and we've all learned a good amount of these. So I've just kind of highlighted how we can do this in different subjects. So in math, using, when you do your nines, using the finger trick. Every good boy does fine in music, the solar system, the months of the year. So these little tricks really do help. I know when I'm teaching World War II, the Axis powers we learn is JIG, JIG, Japan, Italy, Germany. So just giving kids those little mnemonics whenever you're memorizing things can really help, and can really tie into vocabulary. We probably all remember the Freyer model from college, but this has a really strong effect on students' understanding of vocabulary. If I had to pick one strategy that I've seen impact my classroom in vocabulary over the last 18 years, it is Freyer model. You can't do this with every single vocabulary word. It would not be time efficient. But this is an example from, I think I was teaching summer school. I tried to pull examples of things that my students have actually done. So this is from summer school, the word biodiversity. And this was kind of our unit overview. So, on your concept question board for Open Court, you could do a Freyer model. You could pick one a week that really sends home the understanding of the unit. This is definitely something that you can use in math as well. I think especially because of the examples and non-examples. In math, that would really drive home the understanding of a vocabulary word if you have examples and non-examples. And this could also, last time we talked about putting models into your notebook. This is something that could also, you could put an additional layer on there with your models that you glue into the notebook, having examples and non-examples and a definition of that vocabulary word. Word sorts and concept sorts. So this top left picture is from Science STEM on the Greenway. We did a animal sort. So with your nonverbal, not nonverbal, your non-reading students, you could do picture sorts. And then this, let's see. The one with the apples, this is my son at the apple orchard. So we were just looking at the different types of apples, and you could sort, and this would be called an open sort, sorting the apples by however the students wanted to. They may taste them and sort them by flavor. They may sort them by color. They can sort them by alphabet, by the beginning letter. So there's a lot of different ways that students could sort, and I think that open sorts are really going to drive home, that advanced thinking and really take them from surface learning into deep learning. So this is a strategy that is surface learning, but you can make it a lot more complex. I also have a picture of some numbers. You can sort fractions. I love doing fraction sorts, putting them on the number line with students. And then there's another picture of my babies sorting their Pokemon cards when they were little. So if you want to talk to me more about open sorts and closed sorts, I'd be happy to help. This is great for science and social studies. It's really, really, really great for your advanced learners. Especially open sorts. And again, an open sort is where the students can sort it any way they want, and it really gives them freedom because you tell them there's no right or wrong answer. It is however your brain is making connections between these words. All right, another one for vocabulary instruction that we all know is wide reading. So when young children who are regularly read to, they have higher levels of vocabulary knowledge, and then older children who regularly read are exposed to words that they may not hear in everyday speech. So I just gave you 2 quotes here because this is something that we all know, but it's a good reminder that giving students a wide variety of reading materials and supporting that vocabulary instruction is really going to be important. All right, on to reading comprehension. So I'm going to pull in a lot of SRSD here, and this is something that you can pull into your math and science instruction as well. I've been so happy to see a lot of math and science teachers across the county pulling in gist statements. So that is wonderful because it is a great summarizing tool. So summarizing instruction supports reading comprehension instruction. So what I have here, oops, sorry, my light went off. What I have here is a summary that one of my students wrote, and this looks really complicated, like, oh my gosh, only a 5th grader could do this. But all they did was write a gist statement after every chapter. So what we did was we went through the chapter book Hatchet, and after every chapter we stopped and the students did a gist statement in their notebook. When they were done, they typed up all of the gist statements. So you could do this with any book. You could do this with a picture book, doing a gist statement on every page, and then at the end your students have a summary. And then I also have where, I think we've all done this in SRSD, where you have your students type in their gist. So I had students work in groups, and they typed in their gist, and then we chose the best gist statement from the different parts of the gist statement. Okay, next is annotating text, and I will be honest, I often forget to kind of use this strategy because in open court the kids can't write on their text, right? So, annotating is something that is really, really important. I teach my kids to read with your pencil. So although we don't annotate every text, we do, I guess in a certain way, we do annotate every text because we use sticky notes. In a perfect world, I would want the kids to be able to write on their story as they're reading, because that is technically what annotating is. So you could do this by typing out and printing up part of your open court story. I know some people have, typed up the whole thing, but even just a little part of it. This is from, on the right side, this is from the book Fly Away Home by Eve Bunting. And this is teaching the kids to use C-space, but we're annotating. And you could do this a million different ways. You do not have to circle the main idea, underline supporting details. I just teach them, this is one way you could do it. If you are doing C-space, you could only underline and then put the CSP above where your character setting and problem are. And then just have, underline and put action, or put an A for action next to the action parts. So this could be, tailored to your students, but also I like to teach students that you may have a teacher that wants you to use squiggly marks, and then you have a teacher the next year that wants you to box something in, and I want them to be adaptable to that. And I want them to, I think more than being adaptable, I think it allows them to realize I can make this my own. I can, annotate as I like to, especially in 3, 4, and 5. Teaching students that they have that autonomy to make the decisions as a reader about what they underline. We've all had the student that's highlighted the entire story. So I really prefer to teach students to read with your pencil. And then if they're highlighting, I'm doing that with them and teaching them specific strategies for using a highlighter. This strategy has a 0.63 effect size. So it is very, very strong. And, sometimes I know we tend to do this closer to test prep, closer to TCAP. But I think using this strategy all year long is going to really drive home that you read with your pencil. And I also teach kids that you think through your pencil. So you're not just thinking these things in your head, you are thinking and then putting it onto the paper so that when you come back to it, you know what you were thinking. Another reading comprehension strategy is note-taking. I know we use a lot of fill-in-the-blank notes in 5th grade, especially with social studies. I use a lot of fill-in-the-blank notes, but there's a lot of ways you can do note-taking. And sometimes we think of this as, like we just want to give them the information, so let's make it quick. But note-taking is really, really important, and it's got a strong effect size. One strategy that I've used for years and years is a double entry journal. And I don't have a picture of that here, but a double entry journal is just a two-column note-taking piece of paper. And on the left side, you can do it a myriad of ways, but on the left side, I have them write something from the text. And then on the right side, they write something from their brain. So something that makes them think. So you're working on inferencing skills, which is what, we want them to kind of start inferring so that they can make connections to the text. Here's an example of some notes that a student drew. And then another way that has a really strong effect size is Cornell notes. I don't know as much about Cornell notes, but I'd be happy to do some research if anybody is interested in Cornell notes. Typically, those are used more in middle school and high school. But having students, in elementary school, having them practice filling in the blank, reading that sentence, making sure we understand, and then moving on, having examples. This kind of goes back into the vocabulary. Having examples and non-examples is really important. All right, and then moving on to rehearsal and memorization. Repeated reading has an effect size of 0.67. You could do this through reading buddies. I know we've talked about having house buddies, so maybe we can start doing reading buddies pretty soon. Open Court, the second read, is going to be an important step. Poetry repeated reading is really important. I know a lot of the Open Court stories have a poem at the end, so having students work on fluency and working on that repeated reading could really help. And then another strategy is the teacher reads, then the student reads. And the way that the book explains this is that the teacher reads, the student reads in their head, and then the student reads it out loud. So this could be used in small groups. This could be used chorally with all students. But it really drives home that rehearsal and memorization. And we often think of repeated reading as working on fluency, which it is. But it's also working on memorization of facts. So there's a lot, that kind of opens it up to using it in a lot of different subjects. The next one is cooperative learning with peers. So cooperative learning versus individualistic learning has a 0.59 effect size. And I have a video that I'm going to link that I will put in the staff notes as well that discusses cooperative learning and what that could look like in the classroom. So please make sure you watch that video. And our next training will be on deep learning strategies. So I look forward to sharing that with you next time. Have a great day.